Good evening, everybody. Are we having a good time? Good stuff. Well, I must say, I was amazed that this little Bromley branch that barely filled more than a couple of tables at the jail public house up the road, and not that I approve of pubs, of course, now that I've signed the pledge and everything. Not for long, don't worry. And you know, I said to Christine, I thought perhaps as we outgrow the pub, West End Golf Club would work. And not only have we filled it, but I'm told by Emmett we could have filled it twice over, which says a lot about the branch, says a lot about its organisation, and says a lot about what's happened to UKIP over the course of the last year. It really does. And I must say, I looked yesterday's news from Ofcom, that UKIP was now officially to be recognised as a major party. For me, personally, after 21 years of hard slog, it was one of the best pieces of news I've ever heard on the BBC. Although not everybody took it to be quite such good news, including our Prime Minister, Dave, who, despite the fact that the Greens were declared not to be a major party, will not enter into leadership debates this year unless the Greens are included. I think he might just be running scared, don't you? And there were many amazing things that happened through the course of 2014, a year in which we won the European elections, a year in which we won those two amazing by-elections, and more of that in a moment. But for me, you know, after all these years, there are so many people that I should want to thank for helping to get UKIP to where it is, for helping me to get to where I've got. And I could thank Paul Sykes and Alan Bown and Stuart Wheeler and people who put millions of pounds into the party. I could thank the Christines and others who've given hundreds of hours of unpaid, tireless service. There are so many people that have contributed towards UKIP getting to where it got last year. But for me, the one person I really want to thank for making last year so special, for me and for all of us, is Nick Clegg, for asking me to do that for me. He hasn't spoken to me since, I can tell you. And it really was, I mean, the first few months of last year, everything went to plan. You know, we'd organised it, the campaign launch was going to be the day after Easter, the Tuesday after Easter. We had those big billboards up all over the country. We had some really arresting images that got the political and media class in Westminster so enraged that at times on television, when describing the UKIP campaign, they looked like goldfish that had been tipped out of the bowl. And I knew then, if we're upsetting the political class, and we're upsetting the mainstream media, we're probably just about getting it right, because we're probably at the centre ground of common sense public opinion in this country. And the result was dramatic, and as the campaign went on, and I remember it was 3 weeks, 3 weekends before the election, and it was the first Sunday for months that I wasn't going to London to do the Mar programme or Birmingham or whatever it was, and I drove up the road, and you know, the shop opened at 6 o'clock, and I got the newspapers and spread them out on the table at home, and on the front page of the Sunday Times, with 3 weeks to go, opinion poll, UKIP in the lead for the European elections. And I looked at this and I gulped. And I realised at that moment that there is only one thing in life that is worse than being behind, and that's being in front. Because I knew what was to come. And sure enough, we had 3 weeks of just outright wholesale abuse, didn't we? I mean, it just did not end. It was prejudicial beyond belief, and it probably did take a couple of percentage points off our final total. But for those that stuck with us, they, I think, then became UKIP voters. Not people who lent their votes to us in European elections, but they were people who wanted to vote UKIP in every form of election. Well, the great day came, and we did it. For the first time since 1906, a party that wasn't one of the leading two won a national election, and I was enormously and massively proud of our collective efforts in doing that and in sending 24 MEPs to Brussels and Strasbourg. An amazing achievement. An amazing achievement. But it was to get better, because, and once again, and it seems to me that doing things after bank holidays is probably about right, because the 26th of August was the day after the August bank holiday, and you know how in politics today, nothing's secret, is it? Everything is leaked, everything is put out before the minister says it in the Commons. Nothing's a secret because everybody gossips and everything gets out. But I was able, on that Tuesday morning, to tell the press team that worked for us in London that I wanted them all to come in early. We had something to do, and we told the press that I was holding a press conference at 11 o'clock that morning, and the plan had been hatched some time before, and literally almost no one knew what was about to happen. And at 3 minutes to 11, I made a phone call to the gentleman who was acting as Douglas's minder, and I was told they were 300 yards away. So with a room full of press, not knowing what to expect, I then went to the front door to wait for Douglas, and 11 o'clock came. And 1 minute past 11 came. And 2 minutes past 11 came. I mean, talk about thinking I could be stood up on the altar. It wasn't Douglas's fault, it was the minder who'd given me duff information. Douglas arrived, in we went, and the press thought, goodness me, what is happening here? And Douglas took the platform and he said, I have decided today to leave the Conservative Party and to join UKIP. Not a bad line, eh? And the press looked pretty amazed, and they were all on mobile phones, calling for more cameras and reinforcements. And then Douglas really stunned them by saying that on a point of principle, having been elected as a Conservative, he would not simply switch to UKIP, but resign his seat in the House of Commons and force a by-election, allowing the electors of Clacton, who ultimately were the boss, to decide. And I thought, in doing that, Douglas, you did something that we basically haven't seen in British politics, hardly ever seen in the last 50 years. We saw somebody acting on a point of principle. It was magnificent. Thought, well, that was it, we got one. There's always one oddball around somewhere that might move passes. And there wasn't any possibility that any more would come across to UKIP. Until, of course, the Doncaster Conference. And the operation to keep Mark under wraps was even more intense than the one for Douglas, because it was our national conference. The place was awash with thousands of people, protesters, press, and everything. But I had a car with blackened out windows sent to get Mark from a different county and to drive him in through the high security gate at the back of Doncaster Racecourse. And I'd worked it all out that from him getting out of the door of the car into the building was literally a couple of feet of air. That was all it was. And then I'd also worked out that behind this giant black curtain there was a Velcro strip through which, when the moment came, Mark would emerge. So it was all planned, and again, literally no one knew. And my speech began at 2:30, and the plan was at 2:40 Mark would appear. But I had to wait for a signal. And so I started giving my speech, and I wasn't doing too badly with the audience, and I kept nervous looking to the left to wait for the signal, and signal there came none. And then I saw James, my security man, and I sort of implored, thinking, well, the last thing I can do is to announce someone's name if they're not actually here. And in the end, I sort of was begging him, and he gave me the thumbs up, and I said, now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to a friend of ours, a guest speaker. He's a member of Parliament, though not for our party, and there were a few sort of rhubarbs in the room. I thought, crikey, they might lynch him when he comes in, you know. And I think we could please welcome the Conservative Member of Parliament, Rochester and Stroud, Mark Reckless. And the Velcro opened, and out came Mark into this sort of flashlight photography. And they still weren't quite sure, the audience. They still weren't quite sure what was about to happen. And Mark took the platform. And I think the next couple of minutes were, without doubt, the best minutes of my life in UKIP, when Mark used a sentence that I'd heard before. He said, I have decided today to leave the Conservative. He didn't even get the word party out. And then in 2000 they were up there, you know, cheering. And he then carried on and said, and to join UKIP, at which they went mad. And there were people dancing in the aisle, and rightly so. It was extraordinarily exciting, an atmosphere we'll never be able to recreate anything quite as special as that moment. It was a remarkable, remarkable thing, and it worked again because it was secret. And as you know, folks, and many of you visited, I know, as you know, both of them won their by-elections and are now sitting in the House of Commons as UKIP MPs, and we are inordinately proud of it. And we now have 118 days to go, not that I'm counting, you understand, until the general election. And people keep asking me, tonight and elsewhere, how are we going to do? I don't know, and you don't know, and the commentators don't know, and no one knows. But what I do know is this, that this election campaign has started with the Labour Party saying that the Conservatives will destroy the National Health Service within 5 years, and the Conservative Party saying that the Labour Party will once again bankrupt the country, and the Liberal Democrats, thank God, saying nothing. But both Miliband and Cameron are now advised by Washington-based spin doctors, and those that know American politics will know it has all become overwhelmingly negative. It is all about telling the public how ghastly the other person is. And I think by pursuing that and having set out the battle lines as early as they have, I think they're in danger of actually boring the pants of the British public over the course of the next 4 months. And whilst we as a party have established ourselves by standing up and saying, stop, something's got to be done, you know, we're heading in the wrong direction, now is the moment for us as a party, over these next few months, when the smoke of battle has cleared from a negativity being thrown back and forth between the others, it's our chance to come through the middle with some really upbeat, forward-looking, positive messages. Messages that say, we believe in our country, we are unashamed and patriotic, and we wish and insist that the only people that can govern Britain are the British people themselves. It's a message that says, whilst our immigration system is the most hopeless mess that has had the most incredible negative impact upon millions of people, actually it can be fixed. There's a good thing we could do. We could introduce the Australian-style point system so that we can choose who comes and we can be positive about political reform. You know, let's be the party that champions getting rid of this postal vote, which has now reached such levels of corruption in the north of England that frankly in many cases it would shame a banana republic. Let's be the party that says if MPs are corrupt or bent or bad, that their constituents should be able to sack them and force a by-election. Let's be the party that says, you know, if you want to study maths or science or engineering at university, we'll make sure you don't have to pay a tuition fee because this country needs those skills. And let's be the party that says actually the European Union isn't some great vision of the future, it's a little backyard that happens to be doing remarkably badly. And what Britain needs to do is to re-engage with the rest of the world. And wouldn't it be a good thing to re-engage with that organisation of countries who have within them over 2 billion people, who speak English, who enjoy common law, and who actually like us and come and help us in time of trouble. And let's re-engage with the Commonwealth and the broader world and be more confident about who we are as a nation. They're the messages, ladies and gentlemen. They're the messages. As I say, I have no idea what's going to happen. In 4 months' time, I could be one of the busiest people in Britain, or one of the most idle people in Britain. I have absolutely no idea, but I think we've got a chance. I think we've got a chance of winning a very good, respectable number of seats in Westminster, and given just how tight the electoral arithmetic is, if things went to plan, we could find ourselves in an extraordinary position in 4 months' time of actually holding the balance of power in Westminster, and I will do all I can within my powers and energy to make that happen. Thank you very much.